June 22nd, 2168. The outside temperature in the USA at 10 a.m., 49 degrees, or more than 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The number of deaths due to the strong heat does not cease, increasing on a worldwide scale. The most fragile have almost all succumbed: babies, young children, people over 55 years. This year, temperatures have reached record levels. It's only 10 o'clock in the morning. It will be over 56 degrees Celsius, that is almost 133 degrees Fahrenheit, this afternoon in the USA. Humanity's managed to adapt to warmer temperatures before, but not as extreme, and this is just the US. People in the southern hemisphere have either migrated to North America or Europe or perished because they couldn't leave their countries due to lack of resources. Countries like Colombia, Tanzania, and Australia, empty, completely empty, cooked under temperatures reaching sometimes 65 degrees Celsius, almost 149 degrees Fahrenheit. No living organism can stand that, neither can the soil. Coastal cities such as Jakarta in Indonesia, Miami in New York in the United States, or Lagos in Nigeria completely wiped off the map a long time ago because of rising water levels. Humanity's been able to adapt for many years, but there comes a point where neither humans nor the planet Earth can adapt. Unfortunately, it's not just about extreme heat or rising seas. No, it's also about hurricanes and tornadoes, storms, fires, floods, sandstorms, and dust storms. Dust? It's everywhere. In homes, stores, on clothes, sheets, in the lungs. Pollution levels are so high in the big cities that today, more than 1 adult in 3 is asthmatic, and all newborns are born with it. As for the rate of lung cancer, it's more than 35% in general, and reaches more than 60% in the megalopolises. The population is dying. The Earth too. While we were more than 10 billion in 2050 and 15 billion in the year 2100, we're now only 4 billion people. Not just because of the heat, natural disasters, or respiratory diseases due to air pollution, but also because of the lack of resources. Yes, fruits and vegetables are becoming scarce, very rare. Fish too, if they've not been contaminated. Meat? It's been consumed too much. What is left today is a luxury. In spite of a more than drastic decrease of the world population, the resources are so low that the little food left does not offer a varied and nutritious diet. The organisms are weakening. This lack of resources is simply due to the overexploitation of soils during the last 2 centuries, but also because of their total drying up due to the increase of the temperatures. There are half as many trees on Earth as there were 150 years ago. Rain? It's becoming increasingly scarce, and for years now, it is acid rain that sometimes falls in certain regions of the world. Everything is dying. The land, the seas, the forests, the crop fields, the air, the animals, the humans. What about water? It may be the only remaining resource still sufficient. And yet we tried. But when we tried, we humans, it was too late. The damage was already done. The efforts were in vain because we always put off thinking that these horrible predictions would only be true much later. We tried, but everything went so fast that soon the global situation was out of control. Some countries tried harder than others, but unfortunately, when they should have all united, many world wars only accelerated the damage done and put the environmental concern aside. For a long time also, the metaverse, the new virtual world, seemed to be a solution, but it only generated social exclusion and an absolute denial of what was really happening on our planet. No, the virtual dream did not last. And today, here we are. My name is John, and I'm an American scientist. Tomorrow will be my first day on Mars. Our first day on Mars. for me, but also for 1,000 other Earthlings. We will be the first to really colonize the planet, this promised land, which is today the only hope of a possible renewal. The hope of saving humanity. 1,000 people of all ages, all origins, all professions, and all countries. In 2168, the entire population is bilingual and speaks English and Mandarin. French, Spanish, Polish, and Japanese, these are dead languages. At least we'll all be able to communicate in this new, unified world. Tomorrow will be day 1, and we will work together, all of us, hand in hand, 1,000 humans, with at the top a team of 10 people leading the Mars 1000 project. Me and 9 other selected scientists, biologists, and engineers from China, India, Russia, France, Canada, Germany, Norway, and England. Unfortunately, in 2168, no one represents African, Central, and South American countries, or even some Asian or Oceanic countries. As for the islands, let's not talk about them. Here's the current situation. Mars is in sight. We're getting closer. First day on Mars. I wake up in my pressurized inflatable building. These buildings where we all live, at least for the moment. We arrived in the night on this cold, desert, and dusty planet. It's the first morning of day 1, and I can see the sun from my window, which appears strangely twice as big as on Earth, and yet Mars is further away from the sun, as it is the 4th closest planet to the sun. I don't really know how to explain what I feel. It's not stress. Not stress like I felt at the beginning of this trip. Stress that I had to learn to repress, because after all, how can I reassure 990 other people who count on me, on the 10 of us, the summit people, if I don't set a good example? I had to have strong shoulders. I won't go so far as to say that I feel euphoric or even happy. Excited, certainly, because being at the top of this crazy project or simply being part of the 1,000 people elected is simply incredible. Relieved, too, to have made it. To no longer live locked up in a ship for so many months with, most of the time, only darkness and infinite blackness as a view from my window. Full of hope? Yes. The hope of carrying out our project and building the first civilization on Mars that has ever existed. The hope to welcome all the other Earthlings in distress within 1,000 days if everything goes well. To save humanity, to save my relatives on Earth, to see new babies grow up on Mars. Not only the transported eggs, but maybe real babies conceived on Mars. One day. Maybe. Hope. Yes, I would say that is my one and only motivation right now. My colleagues at the summit are probably the same way. We all had to leave our loved ones behind on Earth. Taking our respective partners and children with us would have disturbed us. Our roles as leaders on the entire project are too important. We had to leave everything behind, without the absolute guarantee that everything would work at 200%. Because despite today's advanced technologies, this is the very first colonization, and time is not with us. The planet is dying. Our loved ones may all die. The situation's becoming urgent, so we have time pressure. Each of us in the summit must have an essential role in reassuring the other colonists. Fear? Of course, we feel it deep down, probably every one of us. But we have to appear strong in all circumstances. We all do. Some more than others. As for all the other people on the ship, all the emotions are felt and mixed up. There are the euphoric ones, happy and relieved to have finally arrived on land, which represent maybe 70% of the people. The majority of them are in the presence of their spouses and or children, and are perfectly aware of how lucky they are to no longer be on Earth, where the majority of Earthlings live in hell. Then, there are about 25% of people who are very afraid and have felt the urgent need to consult the ship's psychologists. These people went through crises of tears, even of anguish and panic. They feel lost, disoriented. Most of them are teenagers because they're no longer in the carefree state of a child and have the feeling that their life has been stolen. They have perfect memories of their childhood and early adolescence on Earth, with certainly negative but also positive moments that cannot be neglected. They've known the parties, the latest technologies, video games, the pleasures of life, of nature, well, depending on where they lived, of what was left of it. But above all, they know that they will never see this planet again, and will not be able to evolve as an adult. They are then confused and, not being yet adult or mature, lack confidence in themselves. They need to be reassured. Moreover, these last ones did not have the choice to leave. They left the Earth to follow their parents, were forced, and they still did not accept their situation. Finally, the remaining 5% are certainly the most serious cases. These are the people who regret their choice. It is fear, of course, but even stronger than that, the expression of an immense regret, that of having left their planet and having left their partners and children. It's more about farmers, cooks, or tinkerers and gardeners who have had to leave their loved ones behind and don't feel important enough. Although they are totally important compared to our scientists or researchers. Although their role is essential, they feel that they will not save the world and no longer have the hope that their loved ones will be the next ones to come on the future colonization ships. Our muscles are all tired. After 7 months of travel, everyone's suffering from the effects of gravity, so our muscles are weaker. A week of adaptation is necessary. As for the gravity on Mars, it's about 1/3 compared to Earth's, 38% to be exact. We will have to learn to walk again on our new red planet, so we have a first week to acclimate ourselves to this new and so different environment, physically, but also, above all, mentally. The first week went by rather slowly. In fact, we all stayed in our ships to rest and let our bodies and muscles adapt. Of course, everyone had their own tasks to perform, in particular, those of us at the summit. Checking the weather outside, checking all the electronics, communicating with Earth, reviewing each schedule, regulating and checking all the robots, but also a big medical checkup for everybody. The doctors had a lot of work to do. But from now on, priority number 1 is to unpack all the equipment and start to go outside. The advantage is that it is much easier to transport any heavy loads on Mars, as the gravity is 38% of that on Earth. Then, the first missions to be carried out will be to start testing and begin the production of fuel, cryomethane, and to start cultivating the interior plants. We scientists have been working for years on Earth to develop genetically engineered plants to grow on Mars. The first trials will begin with cyanobacteria, transported from Earth. Tomatoes, carrots, potatoes, radishes, rye, beans will grow on Mars. As for the Martians' waste, it will also be recycled to be used as fertilizers for the crops. These plantations will be created indoors in protected greenhouses. This is the first plan to feed the first 1,000 arrivals on Mars. This is hydroponics, i.e., cultivation in a mineral and nutrient solution without soil. Without water on the surface of the planet, our colony can only produce 20% of the food we need. The rest is in our reserves from the Earth. But it is only dry food like meat or in powdered form, insect powder, vegetables, fruits, various soups. Everything is dry. But every 7 months, supply ships will be sent from the Earth. These supplies can only be sent every 7 months because of the launch window of the robots. But in the long term, the goal is of course to also grow fruits and vegetables outside, directly on the Martian soil. On Earth, we've discovered that the biomass has microorganisms that make life and growth possible to fertilize the Martian soil. How can we do this? With a nutrient solution that will be sprayed directly on the roots. In the meantime, we have the resources of the ship, as well as the crops that have already grown during our journey from Earth to Mars in the ships. Yes, in this dry and lifeless planet, there is for the moment no fertile soil to grow anything. I hear violent knocks on my door. I wake up startled. My eyes still half closed, but my heart suddenly racing. I grab my alarm clock. 5:37 a.m. No, I'm not late. My workday normally starts at 7 a.m. every day. My alarm clock's not supposed to ring before 6:15 a.m. So I get up quickly. I open the door. Tobias is there, with a blank look, a pale complexion, a half-open mouth, and an embarrassed look. I immediately understand that something's wrong. My eyes speak for themselves and question him. Martin, one of the 30 cooks in this section, committed suicide during the night. No sound came out of my mouth for probably at least 5 seconds. 5 long seconds, during which Tobias and I stared at each other, straight in the eyes, looking sad. We anticipated that this might unfortunately happen, especially at first, Tobias tells me, and he's not wrong. Leaving Earth to live on Mars and settling there overnight is not a small thing. Not everyone reacts the same way to so many sudden changes. How? That's the first question I asked Tobias. To which he answers me, he simply went out without his suit. The witnesses of his section heard the noise of the door and saw him from the window, but it was already too late. Because, yes, I'm reminded the oxygen of Mars is not yet breathable, but toxic. And in this night of July 8th, the outside temperature does not exceed negative 50 degrees Celsius. That is to say, negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the first dead colonist on Mars. We knew that Martin was not feeling well. He was, however, followed by Maddie, one of the 5 psychologists of the ship. But he didn't show any signs other than anxiety about being here. Further support measures will be implemented in the future. Later in the morning, Martin will be cremated and a meeting will be held among the members of the summit. The goal? To be even more vigilant and present for people suffering from stress, fear, or any other form of malaise. The greenhouses are now well finished and the first seeds have been planted. Our muscles have begun to adapt to gravity. Fuel production has begun. The few relatives of Martin on Earth were notified, but unfortunately he had no wife, children, or family really close. They had all passed away on Earth a few years ago. He was a rather solitary man, close to 40, rather discreet and casual. We were all very affected by this news, but life must go on. As for our cargo, it was quickly unloaded. Solar panels, oxygen, water, emergency fuel, dehydrated food, special suits, medicines and other medical materials, tools and equipment, waste management materials. Everything's been set up for a week. The advantage with 1,000 people and a perfect organization of the sections is that we move forward quickly. Each person on Mars is qualified in their field and their tasks and knows in advance what they have to do. On top of that, of course, we have our latest technology robots. They've developed the solar panels, and now they're starting to drill down into the icy water deposits and extract CO2 from the atmosphere of Mars, and hydrogen by extracting the icy water from Mars. Then we'll have to heat the elements and create pressure to obtain water, oxygen, and methanol. The long-term objective is to completely terraform the planet Mars. In other words, to make Mars identical to Earth, to create fertile soils, but above all, an atmosphere similar to that of Earth. This is necessary because the atmosphere of Mars is composed of 95% carbon dioxide. And since Mars has no global geomagnetic field, The radiation level is 2.5 times higher than that of the International Space Station, so we can't take all this solar radiation. It is therefore necessary to create an atmosphere on Mars, which is why extracting the icy waters of Mars will create water vapor that will make the atmosphere thicker and thicker. In the long term, we'll be able to see rain and even snow on Mars. That is the goal. After a few hundred years, humans will finally be able to breathe on Mars without a suit. The terraforming will then be completely finished. Ammonia ice imported from other atmospheres on other planets will be used to warm the red planet. The heat will convert the dry ice located in the Martian North Pole into gas, which will also provide an atmosphere to Mars. Thanks to this, it will also be possible to stop wearing spacesuits inside the habitats. We live underground, in domed houses, still visible on the surface, which we have finished building. These houses are functional and numerous. We have to wear the suits inside too. Moving around is still complicated. Did we go out? Yes, most of us had to go out in order to put everything in place. A spacesuit is necessary for that. We have to protect ourselves from radiation, but also keep warm, because it's very cold on Mars. The outside temperature can go down to negative 50 degrees Celsius, almost negative 67 degrees Fahrenheit. It's even colder at the poles, where the thermometer can go down to negative 153 degrees Celsius, or negative 243 degrees Fahrenheit. Life goes on. Each section is busy with its daily tasks. We, the 10 core members and management of the Mars 1000 project. Our typical day consists mainly of controlling and directing each section. Of course, each of these sections is itself led by a chief leader. Organization is very important. Nothing should be left to chance. We, the Summit team, must also keep written and oral reports to Earth every day to keep them informed of our progress. We must also closely monitor the progress of the 5,000 eggs in the incubators exported from Earth, which should normally be born in 1 month. It's estimated that only 30% of the 5,000 eggs will survive in these conditions. Each of us at the top is responsible for a particular main section to manage. I, John, am responsible for the scientists, along with Tobias, who's Norwegian, Lean, Chinese, and Olga, Russian. As for Matt from the USA, Ava from England, and Ganesh from India, they're in charge of the engineers, astronauts, and architects. Finally, for the biologist section, the Canadian Olivia and the German Helmut are in charge. Among the 999 people that we are now in the colony, here's how the sections are divided exactly. The section of scientists consists of 50 people. The section of engineers, astronauts, but also architects of 100 members. The group of biologists is 50 people. The gardeners and botanists have 100 people. The farmers represent 100 individuals. The medical sector, including surgeons, doctors, dentists, physiotherapists, psychologists, nutritionists, pediatricians, dermatologists, gynecologists, midwives, and nurses, has more than 150 people, the largest section of the Mars 1000 project, after the children and teenagers. Then there are 75 handymen and technicians. There are 15 researchers, 10 extreme sportsmen, but also 20 sports coaches. 29 cooks will be present. They were 30 at the base. 10 explorers and adventurers are present. Education remains important and the school continues. 20 teachers play their role. There are 50 soldiers with scientific knowledge. 20 animators for adults and children. Musicians, comedians, singers, painters, animators for children, dancers, photographers, magicians, yoga teachers. Finally, there are a total of 200 children and teenagers under the age of 18. The youngest settler is 3 years old. The oldest, the French researcher Mike, is 57. Of course, everyone's multitasking and sharing daily household tasks according to a specific schedule. And most people have multiple skills. We find improvised hairdressers among the animators, teenagers or soldiers, but also masseurs among the physiotherapists or self-taught writers among the farmers or researchers. Because yes, the goal of these colonies on Mars is of course to survive, but the main objective is to live, not to lose everything that humans have created done, how they've entertained and flourished for thousands of years. Leisure, pleasure, music, art, writing. We do and will do all these beautiful things to last over time, even on a new planet. The goal is not to digitalize everything, let alone robotize it. Not everything has to be shaped to this new world so different from Earth. As for the sections previously mentioned, all have their importance. All are even vital to the proper functioning of our daily lives. First of all, scientists and researchers work hard every day to analyze and interpret the results of the samples taken by the research robots. These are robots that search the soil of Mars and extract samples. Or we study the Martian climate, look for any potential life forms such as bacteria, and the presence of other microorganisms different from what we might know. There's a lot more work than it seems. We also undertake daily research on the possibilities of cultivation directly on the Martian soil. This is a point on which we are making great progress. We're going to start planting the first seeds in a few days, thanks to our nutritive solution sprayed directly on the roots. Then, the engineers, astronauts, and architects are even more versatile. They're certainly part of the section that worked the most during the first month to build each habitat and take care of the most important things at the landing of the ship. Right now, they're working hard on future transportation projects, which would be light vehicles running on hydrazine, as well as an underground railroad with a magnetic suspension train. This train would connect every habitat in the colonies. This will change all our lives, especially because very soon, a new outdoor building for the cultivation of plants will be built, but also another one dedicated to sports and leisure, and one for research. There will be no need to go outside and wear a protective suit to reach each building. Let's continue with a large group, divided into several sections: biologists, gardeners, botanists, and farmers. All these individuals actually work hand in hand on a daily basis. The biologists do a lot of research and analysis, the gardeners and botanists plant, and the farmers cultivate. The farmers are also in close and direct contact with the cooks. It's thanks to this group that we can eat, and therefore survive. Because yes, we have to feed more than 999 people a day, and even more in a few months with the eggs to come. For the moment, everything's going well. We still have a lot of dry food stocks available. Our ship's greenhouse plantings since leaving Earth have grown well, and some vegetables are even growing in abundance. As for the new off-ship greenhouse crops, the ones we planted as soon as we arrived on Mars in the greenhouses, they're not ready yet, but have started to show their nose well before our forecasts. Finally, if the cultures directly on the ground outside are conclusive, we should be able to start eating 100% local food within 11 months. As for water, it's extracted from glaciers. The reserves are simply immense, but the long-term objective is to harvest rainwater. When Mars is completely terraformed. Then comes the medical sector. After the children and teenagers, this is the most important section numerically. And it is, of course, a vital section for our ship. Between the radiation, the necessary capacity of adaptation, the fatigue, but also the space isolation, the physical bodies, but especially the mental health, are put to a hard test. Not to mention the muscular pains, the adaptation to a recurrent dry food, and of course the classic colds or small aches and pains as one could have on Earth. Fortunately, the surgeons have not had to perform any operations for the moment, so they're helping the other medical staff, or writing their thesis on the adaptation of the human body on Mars. Research, writing articles, magazines, books, or scientific theses, but also social and behavioral research are necessary on Mars. This allows us to have new ideas, to keep track of the first colonization, but also to pass the time. Regular medical checkups are also organized, because even simulations have been done on Earth in the past. We cannot predict the physical reactions of all organisms on a planet that is certainly similar to Earth, but not really conducive to life for us Earthlings. What about the tinkerers and technicians? These highly qualified personnel intervene every day to help engineers and architects in their projects, as well as for any manual work to be done or elements to be repaired. The extreme sportsmen have been selected for their stronger physical capabilities and therefore able to train in such a different environment, especially concerning gravity. The muscles have all had to readapt. They help the sports coaches to help the other colonists in their sports practice. Even on Mars, it's essential to practice a regular physical activity and to keep a routine, not only for your physical health, but also for your morale. Let's not forget that on Mars, there are no trees or greenery, or no forests, no running outside or in parks and gardens, no walks by the sea or lake, no restaurants, no canoeing or skiing, no going to restaurants or movies with friends. Mental health being of primary importance, coaches and various sportsmen lead stretching, yoga, fitness, guided meditation, and Pilates classes every day. And this is for adults as well as for the youngest. These sports and spiritual education classes take place every morning and every evening, for a minimum of an hour and 30 minutes, mandatory daily. Education is also always present. With more than 200 children and teenagers on Mars, teachers continue to teach math, science, English and Mandarin, but also Martian geography, astronomy, physics, and chemistry, as well as courses in personal development, survival on Mars, and future projects and plans for the Red Planet. Classes are held Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., without exception. There are more hours of classes than on Earth because those dedicated to the new life on Mars, survival, astronomy, geography, specific sciences and physics, but also future plans, represent more than 65% of the courses. There are a lot more skills and knowledge to learn on this new planet, and each student is already choosing a practical specialization in order to work in his or her own Martian section in the future. Discipline is a must on Mars, and education is no exception, the goal being to build a solid and lasting future. As for the explorers and adventurers, the best on Earth have been selected. They have a thirst for novelty and are used to evolving in different and extreme environments. They participated in Martian explorations with us, the scientists and researchers. They're also in charge of photographing, filming, and documenting what happens on Mars, whether it's the daily life of the colony or scientific expeditions or experiments. As for the military, they're very versatile. Keeping order is not their only occupation. They're in charge of all digital communications with Earth and handle diplomatic and political relations. They also help us, the summit, with all the documentation to be done. They also have a legislative role because, yes, there are laws to respect on Mars. Finally, these 50 soldiers have been selected and are among the best, and all of them have advanced scientific knowledge. In conclusion, they control, enforce special order, protect, but also assist the summit and have a strong diplomatic and political role with Earth. Finally, let us conclude with the facilitators. One could easily suggest that their role is not essential, but remember, the colonists had to say goodbye to most of their hobbies, passions, and activities on Earth. So for the moment, no Sunday hikes are possible on Mars, just like a boat trip, scuba diving, or a visit to a museum. But 20 artists from different disciplines are present to offer different activities every day, and also to animate the Martian evenings and weekends. This allows children as well as adults to have fun, to learn new disciplines that they didn't know on Earth, but also to relax or to let off steam depending on the activities. Drawing, painting, guitar, chess workshops, small concert or organized dance classes, magic acts or yoga, theater or photography classes. Each activity counts, and the entertainers help to put a smile on your face, to chase away boredom or depression. Leisure activities are essential. Life follows its course. A certain routine's been established, but no day is really the same on Mars, and even less so those that will follow in a few years. A day on Mars is only 40 minutes longer than a day on Earth. On the other hand, a year on Mars is twice as long. Here, spring lasts 7 months, summer 6, autumn 5, and winter 4. At least where we're based, that is, in the Martian northern hemisphere. Here too, on our planet where we've finally settled in, temperatures can change dramatically in just 1 week. These variations result in powerful dust storms. These storms can clog all electronic devices. So far, fortunately, none of these storms have been severe and no damage has been done. Things have happened in 6 months. Of the 1,500 eggs that were supposed to survive, only 854 are viable. We're keeping 50 that we will entrust to dedicated families. The others will be frozen and will give birth later. These babies, currently in tubes, which we can imagine as aquariums, sleep, breathe, and are fed through tubes. It's difficult to explain, but it works. Today's technology now exceeds anything a human living in the early 2000s could understand. However, the growth is longer. These babies will be fit to live in the real world in a few more months. How do we explain this percentage error in the estimate of the surviving eggs? A calculation error regarding the rate of radiation and gravity so different compared to Earth. It took us more than 2 months to understand and recalculate, but at least we're learning from our mistakes, and that was the essence of this first experiment. The second spacecraft, which will arrive on day 1001 on Mars, will not repeat the same mistakes. Speaking of babies, the news on that front is quite positive. Since 5 women are now pregnant, 2 of 5 months and 1 of 4 months, and the 2 others of 3 months. For the moment, everything's going well, and the midwives and gynecologists are following the mothers closely. We're looking forward to these new births because in 7 months, the first baby conceived on Mars will be born. This will be a great event for all humanity. Apart from that, the colonization of Mars has well and truly begun. The creation of the atmosphere is underway, and is being done slowly but surely. The new common spaces in the form of a dome are finalized. Indoor greenhouse crops are as generous as ever. The crops on Martian soil outside continue to grow. As for the expeditions, they're still going further and further away, and we're learning more and more about our new planet. No new form of bacteria or other microorganisms, but more and more knowledge, greatly helping us to understand more about the red planet. This completes our studies, our statistics, and helps us in our predictions as well as in our projects. A year has passed, and several events, both positive and negative, have taken place. First, there was bad news. Not from Mars, but from Earth, with whom we're always in constant communication. In just 1 year, the situation's been getting worse and worse. The climate is more and more worrying. Hurricanes, fires, cyclones, rising waters, constantly rising temperatures. The number of deaths is unfortunately increasing at an alarming rate. The consequences? Apart from the deaths, it's a decrease in crops, and therefore food that is becoming scarce. Coastal lands and the last remaining islands that are disappearing, houses and forests destroyed, animals also in danger. The emergency is real. We have no more time. Mars must host the entire population of Earth within 25 years. After that, it'll be too late. The task of humans now? To continue the exploitation of the planet. Further on. So, 1 year we've been on Mars. We're now about 1/3 of the way through Project Mars 1000. The first local food is grown on Mars, and we're eating it. Solar panels and mini nuclear reactors provide us with all the energy we need. Carts allow us to get around, and the underground railroad's under construction. The terraformation continues, progressing month after month. Although still not breathable without a suit, the Martian atmosphere is already not the same as a year ago. No difference is of course physically noticeable, but scientifically it is. At this rate, we might be able to breathe without a suit in 25 years, maybe even sooner depending on the new technological advances. All this without suffering from the radiation and the Martian cold, because the red planet would warm up and the atmosphere would protect us from the burning radiation. In any case, life is easier, more attractive, and dynamic now than during the first months. More living spaces, more leisure activities, more greenhouses to produce more food, but also more celebrations. Everyone knows each other, supports each other, and despite the few neighborhood wars, matrimonial stories, or other small conflicts as there would be in a village, peace reigns and a common solidarity seems to have settled on Mars. The fears and anxieties of the beginning have faded away. Nobody regrets being here anymore. This is even more the case since the last bad news coming from planet Earth. Here on Mars, everyone eats enough. No one suffers from pollution. Rising sea levels are not a fear. There are no oceans on Mars. There are no hurricanes or fires. There's also, of course, no pressure about money, war, or bad news on the TV. Boredom? No, because something is stronger than that. Progress, innovation, hope. Hope is even greater because recently one of our robots went to explore Mars much further. In our analysis, have discovered a new microorganism never known before. No, we don't need aliens or other strange creatures to say that there is or has been life here. There is life on Mars, even microscopic life. We're looking into that. But we're probably going to have to look a lot further and certainly deeper to find out more about this partly still unknown planet. Hope is born. The first Martian baby is born. The news spread quickly from everywhere on Mars, as well as on Earth. The beautiful baby, who could have been Dutch on Earth, has no nationality, no birthplace. No, he, or rather she, is simply Martian. Martian from the very first colony, called 1000, in reference to the number of colonists who landed on Mars at the very beginning. Hope is in excellent health. This is a huge relief for everyone, especially for the other pregnant women and all the other future parents thinking of having children on Mars. An unconditional hope for all humanity. Other Martian babies followed, and the number of pregnant women increased. Today, after 1 year and 7 months on Mars, 11 babies have already been born, and 17 women are currently pregnant. They're mainly professors, doctors, entertainers, or scientists and researchers, including my colleague Olga, the Russian member of the summit. Why so many? Because the situation on Earth is worsening, and the deep anguish of seeing humanity become completely extinct one day is well and truly present. Who knows how many ships will come to Mars before there are no more humans on Earth? Today, we are all celebrating our second year on Mars. The festivities are even bigger than the first anniversary last year. Yes, because this year there are even more colonists, more resources, more food. The 1000 colony has grown both in number and in size. The underground railroads have been completed. We are now all consuming every day the fabulous vegetables, fruits, plants, herbs, and other resources the Martian soil offers us in abundance. Tonight in the main recreation hall, a very large room that can accommodate more than 2,000 people, people are laughing, eating, dancing, singing to the rhythm of the music of the small concert organized for the event. I, along with the other members of the summit, make a speech on the occasion of this special and significant anniversary. And today, 35 new babies will be born in the coming months or weeks. As for the chemically created ones, which were once eggs, they're all doing very well. As a reminder, there are 50 of them and their assigned families are taking care of them. The other eggs are currently frozen. They only grow when Mars is more populated, and therefore more settlers can take care of them. Or in the calculated case where, for X reasons, the Martian population would be threatened, then the eggs would be a repopulation solution. 2 years and 6 months on Mars. Compared to our daily life on Earth, time seems to pass more quickly here. The first babies are now already small children. The teenagers who are 16 years old or more are now working for sections and contributing fully to the smooth running of Martian life. Food on Martian soil is growing. The extensive scientific research and testing in the last few years has not been in vain. We now know how to grow crops on Martian soil. This is one of the greatest achievements of this new humanity on Mars. Potatoes, cabbages, carrots, salads, and even tomatoes. But also eggplants, beans, various herbs, and many others. Our food's becoming more and more diversified. No incident has been recorded. Overall, everyone is in excellent health. Only 2 operations have been performed, the first of which was minor, an appendicitis on a 10-year-old child, and a tumor removed in time. Both patients have recovered. The second ship that will arrive on day 1001 will be able to arrive with peace of mind. The colony will expand. More buildings, energy, and resources will be built and produced. This is the beginning of a new humanity. 8 o'clock in the morning. The alarm is sounded. A massive dust storm will hit Mars late this evening. It's coming straight for us. We've had dust storms before, but this one will be much stronger. Of course, we've always taken the necessary measures to ensure that no damage is caused. The domes are resistant, semi-buried. The solar panels are designed to resist these winds and storms. The reactors even more so. As for the robots, we put them under cover when a storm approaches. Everything should go well. 8 p.m. The storm should hit the colony within the hour. All outdoor equipment and robots are now sheltered. Of course, each colonist is ordered to stay at home, and nobody is to move to another building than his house, and under no circumstances is to go outside. There's only one thing left to do: wait for the storm to pass. (11:30 p.m.) The wind howls. Pebbles and tons of dust are thrown in the air, and the sound of these projectiles can be heard strongly against the roofs. The wind sometimes whistles so loudly that the high-pitched sound that escapes wakes us up. It is definitely the most violent dust storm we've ever experienced. We are all at home in our respective habitats, trying to get some sleep. We're not necessarily worried. About 10 dust storms have already taken place since day 1. 12:12 a.m. A huge thud resounds, a loud noise, even deafening, a metallic noise, as if a huge rock had hit metal. The sound so loud that it instantly woke me up, but also all the rest of the population. I went out immediately and knocked on the door of my closest colleague, Ganesh. We then go straight to the control room, where the outside cameras show what's going on. After a few seconds, Mike shows us the reason for the deafening noise. One of the main solar panels, the biggest one, has broken in the middle. It is completely split in 2, and thousands of small shards seem to be spread out on the ground. Before we can even discuss the situation, there's another thud. Not as loud this time. The stone has just broken another solar panel. Fortunately, only a part of it, the one on the right, leaving the panel razor sharp. The projected stones are not huge, but the winds, on the other hand, are extremely violent. It's now difficult to perceive anything on the cameras. So much dust is flying everywhere. Fortunately, the outdoor crops are protected by domes deeply buried in the ground. Hopefully they'll hold. For the moment, there's nothing we can do to fix the situation. We have to wait for the storm to pass tomorrow morning in order to fix the panels. So we go back to our beds around 1:30 a.m. I wake up exhausted by the past night. I didn't manage to find sleep until about 3 a.m. when the storm started to calm down. I hurried outside, and the scenery before my eyes seemed totally unfamiliar. Shards of glass spread everywhere, tiny but bright enough to reflect under the sun. Stones, small, medium, also omnipresent on the ground. The outdoor greenhouse, totally buried under meters of dust. As for all the buildings, they're still visible, but a big layer of dust covers the roofs. We are now all going to work to clear the greenhouse, reopen it, clean it, and save the panels that can be saved. The panels cannot be completely repaired. Fortunately, we have more stored in the main ship. but the damage caused has resulted in a decrease in our energy resources. It's also created doubt and fear in the population. Most people felt that we scientists should have anticipated this kind of event and protected the panels. People protested, and my Chinese colleague Lean is now suffering from depression. He felt so guilty about this mistake on our part, he's now obsessed with the safety of our colony. We should have avoided this terrible accident. But how could we predict that the wind would be so strong that night? We knew that the winds on Mars could reach 400 kilometers an hour, or almost 250 miles per hour, but nothing predicted that they would exceed that speed that night. The important thing is that there were no casualties. Andre is 18 years old, a strong-willed teenager. He's the kind of kid who skips school, skips yoga classes, and always wants to have fun and avoid responsibilities on Mars. He's one of those young people who had no choice but to follow their parents and leave Earth. His father is one of the surgeons, and his mother one of the researchers on the ship. They have big responsibilities. They're very kind, helpful, serious people, and very respected in the colony. On the other hand, Andre does not like discipline, seriousness, and even less responsibility. What does he like? Music, thrills, adventure. What he liked even more? The Earth. So, on this Martian summer night at 5:25 a.m., he managed to steal an exploration chart and leave the colony. It's only around 8 p.m. that Andre's absence is noticed. His parents, busy with work, didn't notice his absence. As for his teacher, she's used to the absences of this turbulent student. At 10 p.m., it's clear and made official that Andre's disappeared. The absence of the cart is also noticed. The camera shows the young man in action. Andre's in fact already more than 35 kilometers, or 21 miles away from the colony. He was bored. He just wanted to explore the new Martian lands. He also stole some equipment and supplies. The young man just wanted to have fun and didn't think about the consequences of his actions. Searches are then immediately launched. Andre was found and brought back to the colony. The young boy could have put everyone in danger, but fortunately no drama happened. He'll be punished with hard labor. The law applies and Andre's of age. This is the first case of escape, theft of equipment, and disregard of safety rules that's taken place on Mars. The excitement's at its peak. The next ship, this time bringing 10,000 Earthlings, will arrive in a few days. The colony is getting better and better, but we need more. We need new life, new souls, new help, new strength. It's day 990 on Mars. We've reached the number 1,000. We started with the number of 1,000. We are now 2,282 inhabitants. But a tragedy has just brought this number down to 2,222. An explosion. Flames. Smoke rising high in the sky. Screaming, crying. A mini nuclear reactor exploded. The cause? A simple human error. In total, 57 dead, 18 injured, 9 of them seriously. Mainly handymen and technicians, but also Helmut, our German colleague from the summit. All the people located in the perimeter around the mini reactor and the people working there were affected. That is to say, in a radius of more than 2 kilometers around, or more than 1 mile. It's an emergency, it's a general panic, but there's nothing we can do. It's a nuclear reactor, even if it is small and remote. The safety protocol must be applied. The alarm sounds. We all take refuge in our shelters. Fortunately, in this misfortune, it was the most distant mini reactor in our colony. Otherwise, the human losses would have been even more disastrous. 3 people, relatives of the deceased, devastated by this incident, took their own lives in the days to come. The incident was terrible, brutal, violent. This enormously affected the whole colony without exception. The situation with the reactor was quickly resolved. The error was human. We now know the origin. Once again, we'll have to redouble our precautions and warnings. This is the first time since we arrived on Mars that I've cried so much. We are all in mourning. Grief, sadness, incomprehension, a feeling of ultimate helplessness. We've managed to settle on another planet, not to conquer it. We know how to begin to manage, to modify its climate, its soil, its atmosphere, but not how to control it. We did not know how to tame the Earth. We will not be able to tame Mars. We will have to adapt to its storms, but also to human errors. A bright light dazzles me. The light of hope, of renewal, of evolution, of continuity, of progress, of mistakes learned, of change, that of life. Our brothers are coming.